So firstly, I'd like to say thanks to everyone out there who has reached out to us. We really appreciate people tuning in and listening to what we've got to say. It's a nice way for us to connect with people, otherwise we might end up in a bit of a bubble here, and that's never a good thing, so thanks very much for that. The purpose of this video is just to revisit and double down on some of the things that I've covered in previous videos, particularly in a video I did about a month ago or so, in regards to some of the challenges relating to sourcing and purchasing a property here in Paraguay. Let's not call it a problem, but let's say that there are some challenges when it comes to locating and securing properties here as newcomers, as foreigners. Given that there are new people coming all the time and very likely haven't watched the previous videos, I just wanted to revisit some of those issues that I've spoken about, let you know some of the things that we've been up to in the hope of somehow finding a better way through for us and others who are here in Paraguay or intending to come here and purchase property, because the issues that we face and the challenges that we have to deal with are common to anyone that comes here. Firstly, what am I talking about? Well, as I've spoken about in previous videos, factors that are at play here in Paraguay when it comes to purchasing property are the issues of escrow accounts and opening bank accounts here. In regards to escrow accounts, generally they're not widely available to people who have arrived in Paraguay and want to pay a deposit on a property. There is some talk about escrow accounts being available in one way or another. We've heard mention of it, but to date we haven't been able to nail down any viable option when it comes to a escrow account facility. So when you're paying a deposit for a property, as it presently stands, it's common practice to pay the deposit to the seller, which probably sounds crazy to you, and there's a good reason for that, because it is crazy. It's not the way that anyone should be doing business. That's a common way that people actually pay a deposit for a property here in Paraguay. And there's reasons why that can perhaps work better in a country like this than what it might work in other places. One of the reasons is because Paraguay is known as the country of friends. So when someone's buying a property from someone else here, particularly when they're Paraguayan to Paraguayan, they tend to be either known to each other or at least have a relationship that seems to be on the basis that we'll do the right thing between each other, because, hey, that's what you do here. You don't want to get a bad reputation, which is a nice thing, and it seems to work relatively okay for Paraguayans to Paraguayans. But when it comes to newcomers coming here, paying deposits to people that they don't know and have no relationship or history with, we know for certain that that doesn't always turn out very nicely for the person that's paid the deposit. So you pay a deposit to the seller, and if something arises through the transaction, well, there's more than a fair chance that you might not see your deposit again. That's not really a satisfactory way of doing things as far as I'm concerned. There are some limited circumstances where foreigners can come here and open up a bank account fairly briskly after arriving, but you have to fit a certain criteria. And for a lot of people that come here, they don't qualify to be able to open up a bank account. And when I'm talking about bank account, I just want to clarify that. It needs to be understood that there are two levels of bank account here. There's a basico bank account, which is essentially an account that you can operate within the country, but you essentially can't transfer large sums of money from an international bank account into your basico account. It's essentially a national bank account in the sense that you can operate within the country with money that you've got here or you source within the country. So that's not really helpful when you're talking about a property transaction and you're thinking about transferring a relatively large sum of money from your overseas account. It doesn't work. There are people out there that will say, hey, we can open your bank account, no problem. just make sure that you know what kind of bank account they're talking about, because generally it will be the Basico account, which doesn't really help you much when it comes to things like property purchases. The other way of transferring money is via cooperativas, which are, as the name implies, cooperatives, like a financial cooperative that you'll find in most countries. And as is the case in a lot of countries, the cooperatives here are not government backed. So if they fall over, you can lose your money very quickly. And unfortunately, that's not just a hypothetical. So it's not without risk to transfer a large sum of money to a cooperativa. Furthermore, at least in some cases that I know, people have transferred large sums of money to those sort of financial agencies, but they haven't actually had their own designated account. It's been sent to a number, an account number, and the people have sat back and hoped that the money somehow made it from their international account into that agency's account and then made its way into the seller's account of the property that they're buying the property from. None of those things to me are satisfactory in terms of the risks that people are having to take in order to acquire property. Since the last video that we posted in regards to buying property, we've been communicating and sending messages to a number of people who we think would potentially be able to help us with this, in particular legal professionals. And let's just say that legal professionals are pretty much similar wherever you go throughout the world. If you have a problem or you're in trouble and you require an expensive legal solution, they're very attentive and usually will respond and attend to your issues promptly on the provision that you pay them. But in this case, we've been approaching people on the basis that we want to speak to them about the prospect of developing some sort of codified, consistent way that people who are coming into the country can proceed and purchase properties with a level of certainty and assurance in regards to their deposits and their ultimate full payment of the property. So that's still a work in motion, because it's a challenge to find lawyers who want to talk about solutions rather than problems, put it that way. So if there are any clever lawyers out there who are in Paraguay who would like to discuss better ways of doing things and have a better model that we're not aware of, please hit us up, or anyone else for that matter. There's always someone that claims to have a better way of doing things, or it's not a problem, they know better. And we're all ears. If there is something that we're missing in this whole equation, we're really happy to share it with others. And in this mix, I need to also mention the issue of how people are getting around this challenge, because that brings a whole another set of issues with it. In Paraguay, presently, there are two distinct real estate markets. There are what I would call the local markets, which are the properties that would be selling predominantly to other Paraguayans, and it's the market that you would consider to be the rational market. The properties that I've visited over recent months and posted, I consider those to be kind of in that ballpark. They're the sort of prices that Paraguayans wouldn't have a fit if they were told the price of those properties. They're at the reasonable base level of what this market is kind of at. But then you've got another level, and that is what I would call the foreigners level. I won't designate the nationalities involved, but there are some ethnic groups, some nationalities that have come here and paid way too much for property. And what has happened over time is that as other newcomers have arrived here, they've come into these circles and been told, well, this is the market price for this particular area. So over time, a lot of people have paid up here for the property that they've purchased when the realistic price is here. Part of the benefit of operating in that higher market is that you generally are able to access sellers who have the ability to receive money outside of this country. So it can make things simpler. You're dealing with someone that you can transfer from your international account into their international account. And so you're able to circumvent the issues relating to transferring money and opening bank accounts and dealing with escrows here in Paraguay. That sounds like good news, and in that regard it is. Something needs to be taken into account here. Even if you do have the sort of resource that enables you to buy in at that inflated level and be able to withstand that as though it's not a problem to you, that's one thing. But you need to also consider the bigger picture. You are invariably encouraging and taking part in the process of blowing up the property market. And that's not good. It's not good for anyone except the person that sold the property. But that's a short-term gain. In the longer term, it's not good for the locals because it goes without saying, a blowing up property market. Look at just about any place that you can think of. I know any place that I've called home over the last several decades, the blowing up property markets have just resulted in future generation looking at their future and thinking, well, how on earth do I get on here? So I don't think that's necessarily a positive. And it certainly wouldn't be a positive here. But the other big thing that we need to consider is the social cohesion aspect of that. How does it go when demographics come into a country and operate in such a way that a property market gets overbaked to the extent that they can no longer participate in it? That does not end well. So it doesn't matter how much money someone might have, it will affect you in one way or another. It will affect everyone here. It's in everyone's best interest to get their minds around this. That's part of the reason why I've been posting these properties, is apart from just giving you an idea of what's available and maybe just a point of interest, I think it's really important for people coming in here to just get a rough idea of price points so that when they come here, they're not being told, oh no, the price is actually way up here. Because, go away. See, he's not happy about it either. That's part of the mission here, is to just bring what we consider to be fairly rationally priced properties to your attention. And in doing so, play our little minute role in ensuring that we can do our best to not blow this market up and pay silly money for properties, because we really need to keep a lid on that. We can be agents of real positive change in this country, or we can bring those negative elements that have been seen in other countries. It's really our choice. This is a cake in the baking. We can do it one way or another. And as long as we've got the ability to reach out to you and bring to you what we're seeing, well, hopefully we'll be doing that because it's in all of our best interests. So there you have it. Just an update on where things are at for us and what we've been up to. Really hoping to make further inroads in respect to our quest to identify consistent, reliable ways that people can proceed to pay deposits and make payments on properties. And I think that there are several ways that we can achieve that. Ultimately, I think that the most important thing is that we keep talking about it and perhaps even raising it with whoever it needs to be raised with in this country, because it's in the best interest of this country as well. There's no benefit in the situation where people are coming to a country like this and either finding it impossible to buy a property or finding that they're being put in compromising positions and often getting ripped off. That's not in the best interest of this country or the people being ripped off. It's just, no one wins really. I think that we have the ability to shape this commentary. Until we've achieved a solution of sorts, the best thing I think that we can do is to bring this information to you just so that you can consider it and be a positive change. Don't make the problem bigger, don't add to the issues, but put your stake in the ground and say, no, I'm not going to partake in that way of doing things. I've said in a previous video, and I'll say it again, this whole thing of paying significant deposits to sellers is ridiculous. You will be told here in Paraguay that it's a commonly done thing, and it is, and you won't have a problem with it. If something goes wrong, you'll get your deposit back. Whoever's telling you that is giving you a very rosy tinted glasses perspective of the realities. The truth is, it's not uncommon for you to pay a deposit and for something to go awry with the property purchasing process, whether that is just by chance or more designed and deliberate. But one way or another, you can find yourself in situations where you're not going to be able to buy the property. Oh, and by the way, you're not getting your deposit back. So that's one thing right there that I hope we can encourage everyone just to not play a part in. Don't take part in it. It's not a viable way of doing business. And it's something that really needs to evolve promptly in this country. We need to move past this situation where dispensing with the concept of escrow and instead paying money straight to a seller. It doesn't work. That's why we have escrows in most countries. There's a reason for it, and the reason is because if you pay it straight to a seller, you're given a potential incentive to that person to frustrate the purchasing process. Does not work. It can work sometimes, but when I say it does not work, in order for it to be deemed a viable solution, it should be reliable. You should be able to do it consistently and never get ripped. And that's definitely not the case. So there you are, just a few further thoughts about the whole journey of property and locating properties, paying deposits, purchasing properties. They're all challenges that we have to face here. Things that we wouldn't have to deal with in a lot of other places, but whenever we find ourselves in situations where we're facing these sort of challenges, we always remind ourselves of our why and what we've come from and the reasons why we've come from there. And that instantly gives me the assurance of knowing that these problems are worth dealing with. It's worth grappling with these issues and finding solutions, because there actually are solutions to these things. It's really relatively simple. And I think that any lawyer out there who's running around on social media, busy trying to find the next problem that someone's got, well, if you can solve some of these sort of issues, you're going to have a real cracking business. If you can be an agent of positive change and help bring about a more consistent, reliable, safe method of purchasing property for foreigners, well, I think you're going to be run off your feet and you will do very well. If I'm wrong on anything, please reach out and let us know. Just try and keep it nice. Most people are lovely. We have the odd wally, but compared to a lot of people that we know, I know some people who have got channels and but sometimes they cop all sorts of just outlandish abuse. So comparatively, we get off pretty lightly actually. So that's really nice, and hopefully we can keep it that way. We don't pass ourselves off as experts in everything. This is a work in motion for us. We've never purported to be anything other than journeymen on our path to a better life, a better way of doing things, pursuing freedom to the fullest extent that can be pursued this side of the pearly gates. And we are having a ball for the most part. We have been more alive in the past 14, 15 months that we've been here, and then over 2 years since we've left the place that we were previously living. That's brought us alive again. It's made us hopeful and appreciative of the fact that we've got the opportunities to live a life that is full of little freedoms, because it's the little freedoms that make up your life. And we enjoy more little freedoms in this place than what we had for many years in the other places that we're living. It's not for everyone though. I was reading some Reddit posts just yesterday, and man, they were savage on Paraguay. They were really going for it. It's the most boring place. It doesn't have a beach. It's a dump, it's this, it's that. And I understand where people are at. Paraguay isn't for everyone. It doesn't really have like a massive party scene or anything that you would consider to be hyper exciting, like somewhere like, I don't know, Mexico or maybe Brazil. I haven't been to Brazil, but I imagine it's pretty exciting there. Each to their own. And that's part of our mission on this channel, is not to just pass this off as the ultimate destination for everybody, because it's not. Some people would really appreciate the laid-back, kind of quirky, even eccentric vibe of Paraguay, and some people wouldn't. I don't particularly look for my excitement in party spots, bars, whatever, so it's not really a problem for us. We don't need to paraglide and windsurf and, I don't know, jump out of planes or shoot 50mm cannons. I don't know what other things kind of rock your boat in the more exciting places, but they're not the things that we really kind of gravitate to anyway, so it's not such a problem. In return, we find a place that we find really tranquil and the people are beautiful. We just vibe with the place. What can I say? But not everyone does, and that's a good thing, because that means that we're all different and we've all got our likes and our dislikes. And long may that continue. Not one size fits all. And thankfully, at least to this point, we have the ability to at least make the choice of staying where you are now or potentially considering another option. The important thing is that you get the best information that you can to make the best choices you can. And I can say absolutely that the information that we put out has resulted in helping a lot of people make the decision not to come to Paraguay. And that is good, because it's a long way. I'm sure you've got better things to do with your money than going down dead-end trails. It's sad when people will come to a place like Paraguay with a rosy tinted vision of what it's going to be, and may have cooked up some really exotic imagery of what they think they're going to find. Then they get here and it may not reflect that. So the more that we can do to bring about a rational, realistic vision so that you can make some good decisions, well, that's got to be a good thing in my view. But I think that's all I've got to say about that. Otherwise, we're fit and healthy, having a good time. There's some other things going on behind the scenes, positive things that we'll talk more about as they unfold, but there's always things going on, and we're up to different odds and ends and just keeping ourselves out of trouble mostly. It's all an adventure, and that's what life is meant to be, isn't it? You're not meant to get up every morning and go, oh, another day in this mouse wheel. You're meant to get up and say, cool, I got something I've got to do today, or I've got someone I've got to reach out to, or got a video I've got to make. Long may it continue. So until next time, take care. Ciao.